Hello everyone and welcome to a special bonus iRacing video. If you tuned into my channel earlier in the week, you'll have seen that I've chosen the Skip Barber as my main series this season. However, when I was buying the tracks I needed for that championship, I only needed one more piece of content to qualify for one of the discounts. So I took a look at cars and decided to add the Ferrari 488 GT3 into my bundle. Now, everyone I know who owns this car told me it's fantastic fun to drive, and my first impressions are exactly that. It's really smooth, it's really responsive, and it's also eligible for a number of series. You can race it in the Ferrari fixed GT3 challenge, which we're running on screen at the moment at Laguna Seca, and if you've got a B licence, you can also run it in the VRS Sprint or the Fanatec GT3 challenge series as well. So it certainly seems like a wise investment, but I must admit I was questioning that investment when I suffered one of the craziest overtake attempts I've ever had at the corkscrew. Look at that! I was taken right out on lap 3 of my first race at Laguna Seca. It was an absolutely insane move from so far back, and I must admit it left a really bad taste in the mouth for my first Ferrari GT3 experience. The car was destroyed, so I had to get a tow back to the pits, and although it didn't affect my safety rating too much, those were the only incident points I picked up, it did have a hugely negative effect on my I rating. Another big drop, and we've gone below 1200 again. But one of the things I'm trying really hard to do in iRacing this season is not take it quite so personally and not take it to heart when you do get taken out like that. So I came back to give the series another try. We're joining the action on the formation lap, and as you can see from qualifying, I've managed to put it 7th on the grid with a time of 1:26.9. Now that time's not particularly fast, but it's about as fast and as much as I'm willing to push while I'm still getting familiar with this Ferrari 488. So the only goal I'm setting myself in this race is to stay out of trouble. After the disappointment of that previous outing, I just want to be alert to any potential dangers and give everyone the space they need. As we see someone losing it on the last corner of the formation lap there. So that's the first casualty of the race before the lights have even gone green. So we've jumped to the live action in the cockpit now, and look how carefully I'm approaching this turn 1. The car behind gets reasonably close, but he's fairly safe, and we get through there unscathed, so I'm really happy with that. And there's quite a big gap that's opened up behind me already, so that gives me a bit of confidence. I always feel a bit more relaxed when there's a bit of breathing space behind me, because in front of me I know exactly what's going on and I can control the danger. Behind me I've got no control over what happens. And we saw from my ordeal at the corkscrew in the previous race what can happen when someone behind you loses control. It can ruin your race, but for now we've got a gap of about a second to the driver Torola behind, so that's really encouraging. And actually my only real concern at this point in the race was the driver 2 cars in front, Christoph Sadlock. It seems like he's having a real problem with ping because that car keeps blinking. As you can see there, he did it again on the entrance to the corkscrew, and it can get really distracting when you're following a car that's forever flickering on and off. It must be even more difficult for Sasha being so close behind to Sadlock there. But hopefully either his ping issue will resolve itself or we can both get around him. But for now, as we just take the final turn to finish lap 1, we're going to cross the line in 8th place. We've lost 1 position from where we started on the grid, but I'm not too worried about that. Like I say, the main goal here is just to stay safe. And now we're going to jump forward to the end of the second lap, because as quiet as that first lap was, it didn't take long for the race to explode into life, as we can still see Sadlock struggling with his ping in front. So as we approach the final turn to finish lap 2, we're about to see our first mistake of the race. The yellow flags are out and there's a car out wide on the gravel. It's Tony Caparos, and he was in 3rd place, so he's obviously come to grief in that final turn. And although we gained the position, we're going to lose it almost immediately, because Brian Ellis had a really good drive out of the final turn. He's pulled up on the inside of me, and I'm just going to let him ease into that 7th position. Again, I'm still taking it very easy around these turns at the moment. I'm still not quite sure how long it takes to get these tyres up to temperature. But as we can see in front, someone pushes the limits a bit too far. The number 10 car loses the rear and he spears right back across the track, and we have to take avoiding action. We get really lucky there, but there's no rest. Look, there's another car coming back into the racing line, and then another one careering into the wall, and all of a sudden we've gained 3 positions in the space of about 100 yards. So let's go back and check out the replay and see what happened to all of those drivers. We'll start with Caparros. He's the number 2 car in that beautiful Martini livery. He gets really unlucky. Look, the driver behind makes a really late lunge to try and pass up the inside and ends up punting him out. That's really frustrating for Caparros. The cloud of dust kicked up on the approach to that final turn, though, suggests that it wasn't a deliberate overtake attempt by Dylan Steinbach. In fact, he lost control, look, and the inside line was the only place he could reasonably go with the car out of shape like that. And it was just unfortunate for Caparros that he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Moving forward to the start of the second lap, and we saw 3 drivers lose it one after another, starting with the number 10 car, Oscar Tuxedo. He loses the rear, just trying to get on the gas a bit too early, and then we go to the race leader. That's pole position man, Justin Langferman, getting it all wrong on the exit of that right-hander and crunching the wall hard. And then seconds after that, we lost our blinking friend, Christoph Sadlock, and I suspect it was his ping that caused the accident, because watch this, he disappears and then reappears, and it looks like he took some contact from the car behind. But you certainly can't blame Brian Ellis for that contact, the way that car was flickering on and off right in front of him. So back to the live action then, and as you can see, we've made it to lap 4 and we're actually in a pretty lonely position now. We're lying in 5th, so that's really encouraging, but the cars in front have just got a little bit too much pace. I can't stick with them. But look at the gap behind. Tirola's more than 4 seconds back, so it's enabling me just to find a little bit of a rhythm and try and consolidate this 5th position. Behind me, though, things were far more chaotic. Remember Langferman, our pole position man? Well, he was pushing really hard to try and recover from that error earlier in the race, and he ended up spinning off again. And then a lap later, yet again. Meanwhile, the left-hander at the end of this straight was also catching a lot of drivers out, most were falling victim to the sausage curb on the inside. This is Tuxedo just clipping it, and it sends the car out of control, and he spins to the infield. However, some drivers weren't even making it to the sausage curb. This is Adrian Ratowski, just clipping the gravel on the approach to the turn, and it sends him spinning off into the tyre wall. And if you thought I was lonely on lap 4, let's jump forward to lap 10. I've just gone 6 laps without so much as seeing another car. I was actually quite grateful for that, particularly after the punt at the corkscrew in the first race. But you can see the cars in front now 10 seconds clear, so I was never going to catch them, and I was just about to settle for 5th place when the yellow flag comes out. Have we lost one of the guys in front? Yes, we have. It's Dylan Steinbach. Yeah, we saw Dylan make that mistake at the final turn at the end of lap 1, and he's become the latest victim of that sausage curb. It sends him into a spin and gifts us a very welcome 4th position. So yeah, I'm glad I gave the race another try, because I was feeling so downhearted after that corkscrew incident that I was strongly considering packing it in for the week. But yeah, we gave it another chance, and it was a far more enjoyable race, this one, and a really decent boost to the iRating as well, finishing 4th there, plus 61 and 0 incident points. So yeah, a good little boost to safety rating too. So let's check out the classified results then, and yeah, that 4th position has given us 61 championship points. So with such a strong start, it might be worth revisiting this series in the coming weeks and doing a few more rounds and seeing where we can put ourselves. So feeling a bit more positive after that race, I've decided to give the Fanatec GT3 Challenge a try at Road Atlanta straight afterwards. Now, I made a really foolish error here when entering the race. I actually entered the VRS sprint by mistake first time round, and then only in qualifying realised that it was a 40-minute race rather than the 20 minutes that I had time for. So I quit, thinking that it wouldn't affect my rating because I quit before the race started, but no such luck. Look at that, 85 off the iRating, a really painful and costly mistake. And you'll also notice from the formation lap that I'm going to be starting this race from the very back of the grid in 18th. Now, that wasn't a deliberate choice. I actually invalidated both of my qualifying laps, but I'm not too worried. This is my first ever B licence race, and it's on a track that I've never driven before. In fact, I've never even owned it until about 6 hours ago. So I'm going to take it very easy on these opening laps. I don't want to get too close to anyone, because the last thing I want to do is ruin someone else's race by being a bit too inexperienced experience. So as you can see, we're hanging back on this first lap, keeping our distance from the pack in front, but just trying to stick close enough to them so I can follow them round, really learn a few lines and maybe pick up a position or two if there's a crash. And as you can see there's 2 position gains straight away. A huge shunt in the mid-pack. And another spinner on the left there, so that's another position gain. So we're no longer in last place. Just cautiously making our way around these 2 tight corners. You can see Elizabeth McFife chatting there at the top. She actually said just before the race started that it takes 4 laps for the tyres to warm up properly on this circuit. So she urged a bit of caution, and I'm certainly being cautious around here. I don't want to make any mistakes, but we're just starting to lose a bit of touch with the cars in front. But as we approach this chicane, we'll see the yellow flag come out, so that might mean another position gained. And yes, it will. Look out on the left there, in the gravel, a car rejoining, but not rejoining in time. As we reach the crest of the hill and start this downhill surge into this fast final turn onto the start-finish straight. It's a fantastic section. I've really enjoyed my early experiences on Road Atlanta. I can see it becoming probably one of my favourite tracks in iRacing at this rate. It's fantastic fun to drive. But yeah, you'll see from a relative board that we crossed the line in 12th place. We've actually gained 6 positions on that first lap, so we're doing far better than I'd planned at this stage of the race. And as we make our way through this fast and tricky S's section, it'll give us a chance to go back and check out a replay and see what happened to some of those drivers who came to grief on lap 1. And we'll start with that huge shunt in the S's, and keep your eye on the number 18 car nearest the screen. That's Paulius Galazauskas. And he's going to run it in a little bit hot here, and he's going to lose the rear, slide back across the track, take the unfortunate Mauro Ficadenti with him, and both of them hit the wall incredibly hard. And just ahead of that, we see the number 1 car, that's Dormolka, just lose the rear on the climb up that hill. And then at the end of the lap, we've got a side-by-side battle between Elizabeth McFife and Tristan Rosier. Rosier's got the advantage here, but there looks like a little bit of contact, which is probably netcode. So really unlucky for Rosier to crash out there. So we're now just approaching the end of lap 2, and the field's starting to spread out a little bit, and thankfully I've got a nice little gap behind me, 3.5 seconds to the car in 13th, so I'm just doing everything I can to try and keep in touch with Bogdan Wheeler and Tony Vieira in front of me. Both of them look a little bit faster than me, but the fact that they're battling so closely together probably cancels out that extra pace, and actually we're just starting to gain on them a little bit as we approach the top of the S's. But look, Vieri just runs in a bit too hot and he's lost it. Yeah, it's a really tricky turn, this one. It's the one I've struggled with the most while learning the track. It's a blind apex right at the top of the hill, and it's so easy to lose it, just like Vieri did there. So back to the live action, and we're just about to start lap 5, and Wheeler in front's opened up about a 3.5 second gap, so I'm struggling to stick with him. But then we see the yellows come out. We're going to gain another position here because Roldo has spun in the Porsche on the inside there at turn 1. So as we weave our way through the S's, and we're gradually starting to take these with a little bit more confidence now. Keep your eye ahead, we'll see another puff of smoke on the uphill climb, so we're going to gain another position here. The yellow flags come out, and this time it's Bryce Faulkner who's lost it. So all of a sudden we've gone from 11th to 9th, so we're occupying a top 10 position. And it could yet get better still, because look in front, it's no longer Bogdan Wheeler that we're chasing, it's Stuart Taylor, and he was in 6th position, so he's obviously come to grief, and I'm suspecting the fact that we're gaining on him so closely means he's picked up some damage with whatever's caused him to drop all those positions. Meanwhile, in our rearview mirror, we've got the number 1 car of Dor Molka gaining on us fast. Now, Molka spun off in the early stages from quite a strong position, so I'm expecting he's got a lot more pace than me. So if he's going to try and make a move, I'm not going to make it too hard for him. But ahead of us, we're going to see now if Taylor has in fact got any damage. Is he going to go into the pits? And yes, he is! So we've gained another position. So we're going to cross the line to start the 6th lap in 8th place. However, it will be very short-lived. Look on the inside into T1. Molker's making his move. I said I wasn't going to make it too hard for him because he's clearly got the pace and he's clearly on a charge too. So I'm quite happy to give him that position and let him tear off into the distance. Meanwhile, we've got another driver who spun out, Bryce Faulkner. We saw him on the gravel a lap or two ago, and he's caught up with us now as well, so I suspect he'll be itching to get by as well. And as we get on the gas to climb the hill, I'm keeping an eye on my rearview mirror. Is Faulkner going to make a move up the inside? He's going to have a look, so again, I'm going to leave the door wide open for him. Now, I know this might look soft and just surrendering positions, but it's my first B-class race. I'm not very confident. I don't know the track that well, and I don't want to get in the way of these guys, so I am happy just to let them go. Well, we could go back and check out the replay to see what happened to some of the casualties over the previous couple of laps. We'll start with the Porsche of Roldo, who lost it going into T1, and then we can see what happened to Bryce Faulkner, who just took a bit too much of the curb on the outside there, and that unsettled his car and sent him into a spin just before that short uphill climb. We've jumped forward to lap 11 now, and as you can see, my decision to let Molker and Faulkner through was absolutely the right one. They've clearly got so much more speed than me, and they've opened up a 10-second advantage. There was no way I was going to stick with them, and I'd have only been holding them up and probably risking an accident had I tried to defend. So I'm really pleased I let them go as we approach this chicane to end the lap. We're still in 10th place, so the fact that we're occupying a top 10 position is unbelievable at this stage. It's so much more than what I was expecting. And look at the gap back to 11th. Tony Vieira is 37 seconds behind, so we're in a really strong position here. For a moment, I thought it was going to get even stronger with that yellow flag coming out briefly. And if we look at the relative board, we're now no longer chasing Faulkner and Molker. We've got Chris Hornung as the next driver ahead now, and he was in 3rd position, so he's obviously had a pretty big incident and lost a load of places, and we can see him just ahead there. He's a few seconds in front, but we've got a target to chase now, and you never know if he's by any chance picked up a little bit of damage from whatever accident he so clearly had. Then he might just be down on pace a bit, and we may just be able to close that gap and challenge for 9th place. And as I say that, the yellow flags come out and we're going to get 9th place the easy way. Look, Dor Malka has crashed again. Yeah, and he came to grief on the slowest corner of the track, and it looks like just being a bit hungry on the gas to try and get some speed on exit was what cost him, and he slid into the wall. Lap 13 now, and my hopes of battling with Chris Hornung are fading fast. I thought that he might have some damage and that I might be able to keep with him, but that's looking unlikely now. He's opened up a 5-second gap on me. And as I approach the S's, I'm going to make my first big mistake of the race here. I'm just going to run in a bit hot. I'm going to clip the curb on exit, then I'm going to clip another curb. It's going to unsettle the car, and I'm just going to overshoot the turn, miss the apex, hit the gravel, and look, what unlucky timing, because Hornung's made another mistake as well. Had I just kept it steady through the S's, I would have had that position. But it was the worst possible time to make a mistake, and I can't capitalise on Hornung's error. And as a result of us both making mistakes at exactly the same time, you'll see that a lap driver has managed to get himself in between the pair of us. Now, I've had my trouble with lap drivers in recent races, particularly the Skip Barber race at Summit Point earlier this week, but I'm happy to say there'll be no such issues here. Pollyanna's going to pull over to the right and invite me down the inside, and I gratefully accepted. So yeah, I truly appreciated that gesture. It was one less thing to get stressed about in the final couple of laps, but we're right on Hornung's tail again now. So from thinking he was clear, all of a sudden we've got a sniff of 8th place after all. Now admittedly it's still going to be a long shot, but I was really encouraged to see him make a mistake into T1. Look how wide he runs, and he loses all momentum, and it gives me the chance to catch up right behind him now, so we're right on his tail. And although there's no real way through this tight and twisty section of the track, if we can get close enough to him, we might be able to benefit from some draft on that long straight at the back of the track. However, as we just push a little bit too hard, we lose a bit of grip on that turn into the uphill section, and I just lost a bit of time. So all of a sudden it's back to 1.4 seconds, the gap, and it's looking unlikely again now, but all we can do is keep pushing. And Hornung's clearly feeling the pressure because he runs a little bit wide on exit there. So it's only a small mistake, but he kicked up a little bit of dust and it's going to cost him a tenth or two. So I'm going to get a little bit closer. That gap has come down to within a second now. It's 0.8 of a second. So it's looking like we could be setting ourselves up for a bit of a grandstand finish here in our first ever B licence race. Closing right in again at the chicane. Can we get on the gas over the crest of this hill and go flat out around the final turn to carry as much speed as possible onto the start and finish straight? We're still 0.9 behind, but we saw him make a mistake here last time around. Is he going to do it again? He is. He's going to get a bit out of shape, so we're going to have a look up the outside. It's the only place we can go. It's a bold move, but we've got the inside line for this tight turn. Can we hold it? Yes, we can. Just. Now I'm going to have to defend because he's surely going to want to take a look up the inside here, and he does do, but there's just not quite room. And the last thing we want now is another mistake at this turn, so we need to take this one cleanly. And we've got the advantage. We're in 8th place. Hornung's now 0.3 of a second behind, so have we done enough? I suspect he's going to be coming back for another challenge before this lap is out. So we just need to try and take a defensive line wherever possible now. I was a bit sluggish on the exit to that turn. And yeah, sure enough, Hornung's got the drive look. He's going to be right in my draft now. He's going to be looking to come out. So I'm going to immediately switch to the defensive line. I want to seal this inside line so that he can't make it. If he's going to come around me, he's going to have to come around the outside. And that's going to be really difficult to do. So I've sealed the inside line off. I make that stick. And now his last opportunity to make a move is going to be up the inside into the final turn. He's going to have a look, but is he carrying enough speed? No, he's not. We get to the apex first, and we've done the job. Crossed the line and finished in 8th place. A really enjoyable race, that one, and an absolutely sensational last lap. So let's go back and check out a replay to see exactly what went down. And before we get to the good, let's start with the bad. And this was my mistake. You can see I took way too much curb there. That forced me to take even more curb on the inside and sent me wide. But the frustrating thing was Hornung did exactly the same thing, although he spun on exit. Just loses the rear there. So we both made a mistake at exactly the same time. And neither of us could capitalise on the other driver's mistake. And then as we start the last lap, I was hoping he was going to make a mess of T1, and he did. He lost all his momentum, and it's probably not the most conventional way to pass there, but it was the only gap I had, and I had the speed, so I had to try and see it through. And then it's all about defending. Hornung's going to try and take a look on the inside here. It's really close, but I've just got the advantage, and I can just hold on to it. Cracking racing through the S's. And then as we get onto the back straight, we've got a third of a lap to go, so I knew Hornung was going to try everything he could to get back around. That's why I switched to the defensive line. I wanted to seal off the first part of this chicane and then hopefully get a faster exit. I didn't get the faster exit, and he's right behind me now, and he's going to have a look up the inside. I could have defended here too, but I opted for the faster wide line, and it paid dividends. I carried the speed through the turn to hold on to 8th place. Great stuff, really enjoyed it. So yeah, let's check out the classified results for my first ever B licence race in the Fanatec GT3 Challenge. And there we are in 8th place, and with esteemed company too. Look at all those green and blue colours. There's only A or B licences in this series, and yeah, it's quite intimidating, but I think we held our own there. I mean, I'm under no illusions that my lap times were nowhere near quick enough to actually deserve an 8th place finish, but we kept it on the track, whereas so many others didn't, and that's half the battle. Keeping it slow and steady and picking off other people's mistakes. That's exactly what we did here, and it's earned us a really strong position. If you've enjoyed watching, feel free to subscribe and check out some of my other iRacing or race room videos. It would be, great to hear from you. Take care, guys. Cheers for now.